Neither coupe nor cabriolet, the 911 Targa has written itself into automotive legend, hasn't it? With over 150,000 models built since the car's inception in 1966. And it's led to this, the Targa 4S Heritage Design Edition. Today we're going to delve back in time and study the heritage behind this Porsche exclusive model to decipher just how special this 992 really is. What we've got here then is, well, Targa Genesis. At face value, it might look like any other early Targa. You can see the roll bar over the B pillar there. No gills, incidentally, they didn't have that on the very early cars. So ostensibly, looks like you would expect the classic Targa to look like. However, what you can see, or can't see, is the wraparound glass screen. That, which was heated as well, by the way, came in 1968. This was the first iteration of open-top 911, obviously, or 12. The Cabriolet, don't forget, didn't come along till 1983. For the first 2 years of Targa production, instead of that glass wraparound screen, you had this, what is commonly referred to as the soft window Targa. The advantage of that was, well, you could unzip it, put it down, and you really did have that kind of quintessential open-top Porsche experience. A nice little fact for you, by the way, when the Targa was first conceived, Porsche were going to call the car the safety cabriolet. Anyway, in terms of collectors and rarity and whatnot, you'll do well to ever see one of these. In 10 years of messing around with Porsches, I've only seen a couple of these, genuinely a couple, in the UK. They're super rare, bit of a collector's item, and as I say, it's Targa Genesis. Super cool. But, as you well know, the Targa story doesn't end there. Over half a century on, and the latest Targa is this, the Heritage Design Edition. Limited to 992 units worldwide, this 992 uses the 991's clever roof kinematics to infuse that classic look with modern tech, which really sets the tone for the rest of the car in expertly melding old with new. Its cherry red hue is inspired by the 356 era, despite being metallic, with other, smaller exterior details all over this exclusive Targa, which feeds back into Porsche's past. Take in the long bonnet era crest, gold badging from the 356 and early 911 era, Fuchs style wheels, plus 356 era racing stickers, and the fun continues inside. Okay then, so while there are loads of really cool touches on the exterior of this Targa, it really is inside where the magic happens for me in terms of that beautiful synergy between old and new. A lovely example to kick us off, so ahead of me and behind the 3-spoke sport steering wheel with PDK paddles, you've got the green numbering and white pointer needles, again completely reminiscent of the earliest Porsche 911s and the 356 of course. Elsewhere, this beautiful corduroy seat inlay is repeated on the door cards, is reminiscent of, again, the long bonnet era from the Porsche 911. That theme continues up the A pillar, around the B pillar and roll bar of the Targa. Indeed, also on the underside of the roof, when it's above me here, that perforated Alcantara is of course a trim from the earliest Porsche 911s. Allied to that, of course, you've got this beautiful heritage pack inside, which of course is available on the rest of the 911 lineup, I might add, which features, in this instance, beige and Bordeaux red as a two-tone interior. Quality of the leather, though, is a step up from standard, with particular consideration taken as to how this thing is going to age over time. Really though, like I say, the whole brilliance of this interior and why it works so well for me is that historical nod to Porsche styling of the 1950s, 1960s and 1970s. For the Porsche connoisseur, this really is just the right amount of historical reference inside this modern 992. Enough talk, let's fire up the flat six and get this 450 horsepower 992 moving. Built by Porsche exclusive, this is the first of 4 heritage design vehicles that the department is going to be building over the next 4 years, and all of them will take at least some historical inspiration from Porsche sports cars of the 50s, 60s, 70s and 80s. This is not a driving review of the Targa Heritage Edition. If you want to know how the 992 Targa drives, I'll put a link here to my 992 Targa 4S video. This is essentially the same car as that, so there's no point going over old ground and reviewing it. What we do want to look at though in this video is, are the extra details on the Targa Heritage Edition worth it? We've already discussed, haven't we, at face value, how awesome the concept is of reviving some old styling cues and bringing it back to a modern 911 such as this. But how does it stack up when driving it every day? Well, the corduroy seats, there's a big win with this. Open top 911 owners, you'll know what it's like when you've had the top down all day. You then go to get out of your lovely leather seat and your sweat drenched back peels off the leather. It's pretty minging, isn't it? Well, with corduroy seat centres, that doesn't happen. However, what I have noticed though, and this is obviously only a few thousand miles into a press car loan, they're beginning to get like a blue tint over them. I think it's from different people's genes. So it'd be interesting to see just how durable the material is over time. Still a few design traits that this Targa has in relation to the normal Targa, and that's that you have to stop at a roadside or at a standstill in order to put the roof up when you think it's going to chuck it down. It takes 19 seconds, as I've revealed in a previous video, but once it's up, it at least allows us to continue our journey in harmony. It's quite nice with the roof up again, just so you can see that perforated Alcantara that forms the roof lining above me. And as I say, it just all feeds into this mark of sheer quality on this Heritage Design Edition Targa. It does feel like a really special place to be. Now granted, you can spec a lot of this, particularly through the Heritage Design Pack, on any 911 currently, including a Targa. But allied to the fact that this is a limited and numbered build production car, again, I just think that the exclusive department has really nailed it this time in terms of providing that right amount of historical reference and context into what is, you know, it's a brilliantly modern 911. The concept of this model, the Heritage Design Edition, is absolutely spot on. But in order to celebrate heritage, well, first you must have history. Porsche, of course, has plenty of that, particularly with the 911 Targa, exemplified by a recent trip to the south coast where we're able to put this car against one of its historical forebears. Okay, so we're at Beachy Head. We've got the 992 Targa Heritage Edition, and next to it, well, it's the original long bonnet Targa from 1970. What we don't quite have is the weather, but we're going to persevere. But here we are, quintessential 911 Targa driving. I think I've said before on this channel that I absolutely love a Targa. I seem to go through stages of pining after different sorts of 911s, which is fair cop really, 60 years and many different models to choose from, but a classic Targa always seems to come back near to the top of the list. This 911E, E standing for Einspritzung, which is the German word for injection, has an MFI, mechanical fuel injection, which was what separated the 911E from the carburettor of the T. This car, as I say, is not so much outlaw, but it's just kind of been upgraded. This is Mark Sumpter's personal car, Mark, who runs Paragon Porsche. But as I say, it's been upgraded to 2.7 RS spec, really, give or take, although it's got 911S cams. The result is around 10 horsepower less than a 2.7 RS, so about 200 horsepower mark, with a good bout of low down torque. As I say, it really has got a lovely punch of torque out of the corners. It's also got S-spec brakes and anti-roll bars all round. That's kind of about it really. It's a good fun car to drive. This car isn't on the RS spec wheels, by the way. It's on 6-inch Fuchs all round, which is nice. Not over gripped. Definitely helps the car move around a bit. Of course, ordinarily these cars, they're certainly not track weapons, are they? They're nowhere near as stiff as the coupe, particularly, of course, these older ones. But that's missing the point. The Targa, whether in TE or S-spec, as those early cars were, really was the car for touring in the 911. And I mean, yes, they drive differently. This is a hilarious thing, actually. You can really steer it on the throttle, whereas the 992's chassis is so much more taut, particularly for an open-top 911, so much more assured. So how similar are these Targa ancestors? Let's get them side by side and take a closer look. So, As you can see on the Targa, the roof raises and lowers in 19 seconds. The car has to be stationary because this huge clamshell goes back over the rear clusters. It's a weighty old thing, isn't it? I do wonder what the mechanics of this car are going to be like in 10 years' time, just in terms of wear and tear on the motors and whatnot. But as you can see, this is a super complicated part of the car. By complete contrast, if we look at this 1970 Targa, this is from the good old days of, well, simplicity. The hood is manually operated because you take it off yourself. It's then stored in the front of the car. We've popped the deck lid so you can see underneath. So this is a 1970 car. Originally, that is a 2.2 litre flat six, of course. This car is a little bit different, or deviates slightly over stock, of course, as we'll go into. But I mean, in terms of the engine, it's not a 2.2 anymore. It's a 2.7 RS spec, essentially, with 911S cams. It means it's about 10 horsepower less-ish, Mark says, give or take, over an RS, but just has a little bit more torque. Probably a little bit more usable for a heavier car like a Targa, I would say. Certainly in terms of the interior as well, we've got the Recaro seats again with a really nice houndstooth seat centre as well. It looks like the steering wheel's been retrimmed as well. And then of course you've got this nice basket weave that started on the earlier cars, and it's things like this that Porsche Exclusive has taken in terms of its design thesis on the Heritage Edition car. It's kind of funny really when you consider that not even 10 years ago, the classic 911 Targa really was at the bottom of the pile when it came to air-cooled 911s. Then, of course, the 991 Targa came along with its reworked roll bar design, which obviously incorporates that electric kinematics, very, very clever roof system that we're now quite used to. And I mean, the classic Targa legend really was reborn from that point. They were looked at rather differently by enthusiasts, fondly for the first time in a long, long time, and values adjusted positively as a result. Ah, oh, lovely. Tell you what, I think Mark's onto a bit of a winner here, maintaining sixes at the back in terms of the Fuchs wheels. A lot of torque. And the car moves around quite a lot as well, which is great fun. What an awesome little thing. I'd also like to point out at this stage that these early cars, up until the 2.4 era of the E and F series 911s, were fitted with a 901 gearbox. It was the dogleg gearbox, which means that first is across and down. They're usually a bit of a pain in the backside to use. That is exceptional. So there we go then. It's awesome, isn't it, to be able to get an early 911 Targa next to that Heritage 992. And I hope you'll feel like I do, that in kind of carrying out this exercise really does highlight just how special that 992 is. I really do have to doff my cap to the folks at Porsche Exclusive. I was not sold on the 992 Targa 4S Heritage Design Edition. I wasn't sold by its concept from the outset. However, after spending some time with an original and helping to reaffirm in my mind what these early cars are all about, really does underline the 992 as a special car that pays homage to the heritage of these wonderful open-top 911s, the first open-top 911.